Welcome back. Previously, we were discussing about the KNCU and what are the various services and activities that are conducted by KNCU for its farmers as well as for its members. Let us discuss about the various contributions in the field of cooperative movement in different parts of the world. Next one. Contributions by Louis Blanc. Louis Blanc was born in 29th October 1811 in Madrid, Spain. He was a well-known French politician, historian, socialist who favored reforms for the upliftment of the poor and weaker section of the society. During his period, there was a wide disparity between the poor and the rich, and the rich always exploiting the poor and the weaker section of the society. And those were the situations that led to the implementation of cooperative movement in not only in Spain or France or Africa or whatever the country around the world. So let us discuss further about Louis Blanc. In 1839, he founded Revue du Progrès, it's a French term, and published his famous book L'Organisation du Travail. It's the name of his book. The book was well accepted by the working class because in this book he was mentioning about the situations and the issues and the exploitations faced by the weaker section of the groups and how these can be avoided. That was the main point or the abstract with regard to the book. So it was well accepted by the working class. According to him, competition was the responsible for the prevalent poverty, crime, depressions, and all other types of social evils. He demanded equalization of wages and merging of personal interests in the common good. And he is also of the opinion that de chacun selon ses facilités et chacun selon ses visions. It's a French term. It means from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. That was the opinion of Louis Blanc for the upliftment of the weaker section of the society. In order to achieve his idea, he proposed the establishment of social workshops. So what is meant by social workshops? Social workshops is a sort of combined cooperative society and trade unions. It's a composition of a society as well as a trade union where the workmen in each trade were to untie their efforts for their common benefit. So the working class has to work for their needs. They should not be exploited. If they want something, they have to work for it and they should be paid well. They should not be exploited. That was the concept. The revolution of 1848 in France was a real chance for Louis Blanc's idea to be implemented. During that year, Louis became a member of the provisional government. Because of his compulsion on 25th February, the government understood to guarantee the existence of workmen by work. Until then, the government was not thinking about the conditions of the workmen or the poor people or the weaker section of the people. Government was not at all bothered about it. But through Louis Blanc, the government was started to understand the conditions of the weaker sections of the society. Even though his demand for Ministry of Labour was refused, he was appointed to preside over the government's Labour Commission. Blanc believed that unless the workers were given a help to get started, then cooperative workshop would never work. So, in order to start social workshop, it has to be funded. So, to fund this project, the government would collect the necessary capital through taxation and profit from state enterprises. So the profit of the workshop were divided into three parts. First part of the workshop means profits earned by the workshop will be provided as wages to the laborer. That will be the first part. Second, for creating a fund for the repayment of advance made by the government as capital. Earlier we have mentioned that for the success of a social workshop they need capital, and the government will help in providing necessary financial support for setting capital. So once the workshop has earned sufficient profit, a part of the profit will be set aside for creating a fund for repayment of the advance made by the government. And finally, to be distributed among laborers in addition to wages. Apart from wages, they will be provided additional financial assistance for improving their conditions. The work, wages and profits were allotted on the basis of the principle that from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. He believed that the competition would eliminate competition because such workshops were organized in such a way that private workshops would not be able to compete with them. Because here his main opinion was that if there exists competition, the competition leads to many issues and problems. But if the competition is avoided, all the issues of the society can be avoided. So he was taking necessary initiative to avoid all sorts of competitions. But the thing is that even though his ideas were very efficient or very potential, the success of the social workshop were not as expected. The main issue is that the National Assembly, who was in charge of organizing the workshop, did not take much initiative. The National Assembly was not ready for this type of social program. Moreover, those who are entrusted with the task of organizing the workshop did not take much initiative to implement Blanc's ideas. So ultimately the workshop will be closed. When the workshop were closed, the workers rebelled again. Earlier the people were suffering the exploitation made by the rich or the higher class. So in order to avoid that, they started rebellion. That led to various issues in the society. That time the Louis Blanc come to the situation, and he had implemented his ideas to uplift the weaker section of the society, and the social workshop were started. But again the social workshop idea was a failure. Thus again the laborers or the working class began to start a rebellion. When the workers started a rebellion, they were put down by iron brute force of the National Guard. National Guard were stopped the rebellion. The National Assembly also blamed the Blanc for the failure of the workshops. His ideas were questioned and he lost the respect which had given him influence with the public. His political and social ideas have had a great influence on the development of socialism in France, even though his ideas were not successfully implemented, not because of his issues. It was not successfully implemented because of the lack of initiative taken by the government and National Assembly. He is considered as the first person to use the word capitalism in its modern form during that period, during the 19th century. He did not believe in free market economic system described by Karl Marx in Das Kapital. Blanc considered workshop as the only solution through which society would grow, thereby avoiding competition. As a member of the provisional government, the Blanc advocated the theory of right to labours, by which the government should guarantee jobs to everybody. The failure of workshop proved that they have failed not because of the fault of Blanc's idea, but they were established in such a way that they were bound to fail. the government and the National Assembly were not at all interested with the success of the Blanc's idea. So they want to make his ideas into an utter failure. They were not established in conformity with his idea, so they were not entrusted with the people who were sympathetic to the working class or the poor sections of the society. Still, certain workshops were successful. But the government kept it as a secret and did not bring to the notice of the Blanc and his followers. Though his ideas or though his workshops were failed, he is considered as the first man in France to bring a French cooperative movement. And in order to honor him, the Paris metro station Louis Blanc is named after him. So he was famous for the implementation of cooperative movement in country of France. He was the first person to implement the concept of cooperative movement in France, and his idea of social workshop, even though it was a very potential idea, it didn't receive any success stories because of the lack of initiative by the government as well as the National Assembly. Government was not at all interested, implementing agencies, and the National Assembly also doesn't have any initiative in implementing the Blanc's idea. And even though some workshops were successful, that were kept under secret by the government. Thereby, all the chances of success are curtailed by the government as well as the National Assembly or the implementing agencies. So that was a situation of cooperative movement in France, and these were the contributions made by the Louis Blanc as part of French cooperative movement. Next, we will discuss about another famous eminent personality who had led to the development of cooperative movement in our country. We will discuss that in the next session.